What's going on, guys? Gas Station here, bring you another reply to me. I'm right now in my room at my home in the Maritimes in Canada. Yeah, so I can't really be that loud because there's company around, and I don't want them to come in and ask me what I'm doing because they will do that, which is kind of annoying. They already know I have a YouTube thing, and they don't really give a shit, but it's still kind of annoying trying to talk to nothing and expect them to just know what I'm doing. So I'll try to get to these reply to me's finally after 2 weeks, because I can't really play anything, and upload speed is garbage. So I feel like if I make an unedited just raw footage thing, it would upload really quickly. So yeah, that's what we're doing. All right, so let's start with the comments. I'm gonna start from the very bottom, so I address the ones that were first. So I have to keep clicking more comments, show more, all over the place. Here we go. Well, that was easy. Okay, so let's see. This wasn't a question. Oh, here we go. So CW_Vilsono asks, reply to me. As of now, do you think TRS is better than Conquest? I would love for you to play Birthright so I can hear your opinion on both choices retrospectively. I don't know. I haven't played Tearing Saga since part 10, because that's when I really started to dial in on the podcast or on the review and trying to beat Revelations. So I haven't really touched it. I do know that the new translation is out, so I'm really stoked for that. I'm trying to find time for stuff. It's just it's really hard to find time by myself when I'm at home. I just have to respect my siblings and shit. I just have to respect who I'm around. I can't really take time for my own because it's I haven't seen my brother in 2 years, and I'm an uncle now, so I have to see the little kid who's just adorable and stuff. So I have to just respect. I have to respect the fact that I'm here. So it's hard to find time to actually play through stuff. So I'm just trying to squeeze in as much me time as possible. But as for the question, I have no idea. I have to beat Tearing Saga first, but I love the story. I love the animations. I love, the fact that it's this retro game, but it's also so ahead of its time. I feel for me, I feel it's ahead of its time in terms of Fire Emblem. I feel things that Tearing Saga did is what Path of Radiance tried to do and stuff. That's just me. And Path of Radiance came out in 2007? No. 2004, right? Radiant Dawn came in 2007. But yeah, I just feel Tearing Saga was ahead of its time, and it was really cool. And I think they did things. I think if Path of Radiance learned off Tearing Saga, Path of Radiance would be a way faster game and a way funner game. Even though the thing with Path of Radiance is that it's super clunky, and the animations just suck ass because they try to do these 3D things when they didn't really need to. I think they just should have stuck with the 2D, and maybe 3D for Radiant Dawn, but definitely 2D for Path of Radiance. But yeah, I have no idea. I'll have to beat Tearing Saga first. And with the new translation, it should be pretty interesting to see, playing the game that's not, lost in translation, if you know what I mean. I would love for you to play Birthright so I can hear your opinion on both choices. I know people want me to play Birthright, but I just seriously don't really want to. I've played Conquest, I've played Lunatic, and at this point, I feel Birthright has nothing to offer, and I can be doing way better things with my time. I was curious about beating Conquest and playing playing Lunatic because it was a challenge. I knew it was going to be challenging, and I really wanted to experience the amazing gameplay for myself, and that's what I did. Revelations was oh, I know this game is apparently really bad. I'm curious, about all these crazy gimmicks that people are talking about, and it was the curiosity that drove me to beat Revelations. And now with Birthright, it's well, I know Birthright has shit gameplay and has a really mediocre, below mediocre story. And it's do I really want to spend time playing this game? And I know people want me to, and I think it's fair to you guys that I should do it. But man, fuck, I just don't feel like it right now. I want to play FE4 before I do that. But I'm just torn. If I had the time to do it, I'd play Birthright. But I don't want to spend money and stuff, and I don't really believe in the whole buy a split path thing, even though you have to, the whole choice is predicated on choosing who you want to like follow, even though it's already decided once you buy the copy. I don't know. I think it's really shady shit that, I mean, this is kind of off. This is kind of like rambling, but I think it's really shady shit that you have to like buy two separate games, even though the special edition can hold every single game in a single cartridge. So it's like you're just stealing money from me. Like I'm not really down for that, and I don't know if I want to support it like that. But I mean, I guess I might if people want me to play it. Let's see. There's some nice comments here. Don't ever change. I won't. Reply to me if you care to. This is by Dohi Wario. My first Fire Emblem game was FE8 through the 3DS Ambassador thing, and I couldn't get into it. Awakening was the game that hooked me to the series, and after completing it, I went back to FE8 and loved it. After playing FE7 and Shadow Dragon, I wanted a new FE game in the older style. As a series veteran, do you think that that a majority of fans who started with the 3DS FE games would accept an older style FE game? Yes, there are definitely people who have done that, like who've gone back and played the older games. The majority though, I don't know, man. I feel like you'd have to like ask them in some huge ass survey or something to see if they'd go back. I wish they'd go back. I think as any person who's like seen the progression of this series, and I know I'm not like a huge veteran. Like the only non-localized games I've played was like 4 chapters of FE4 and like some FE1 and like FE2. So I wouldn't say like I'm a super veteran, but you know, when people can go back and appreciate the old stuff, I feel like it just is nice. I can't really explain why, but it just is nice to see newer, newer fans just go back and play FE7 or FE8, or if they're really into it, they play like FE4 or something. But I can see why they wouldn't accept it. I know a lot of people think the older games are bad. They are too used to the new gameplay. They can't. A big reason why they can't go back is because some games are just unavailable to them. They don't want to go through the hassle of trying to find a translation that's good and trying to like illegally, because the only way to play FE1 to like FE5 to 6, I mean, FE1 to FE6 is like by illegally downloading a ROM, patching it, and then playing through it. And people don't really give a fuck about that. Like they'll play it anyway. But it's just maybe people don't want to go through that process. Maybe people think the whole process of trying to patch things they've never patched before is like intimidating. The Talia series is barely impossible to. It's like pretty much impossible to even get to. Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn go for like fucking $80 each if you're lucky. So like, there's definitely things that are restraining people from going back to playing the older games. But if I was like, hey, play this older Fire Emblem game if you like Fire Emblem, and it was just totally, available to them at the exact moment, I would hope they would accept it, because I don't really know. I've known people who don't want to go back, and I've known a lot of people who do want to go back. So I don't really have an answer for that, but definitely hoping that they would accept it. Bright Tempest asks, reply to me. I would agree that in general, the characters in this game, Fates, are less interesting compared to the other games in the series. I think this is because no one really has a fleshed out backstory or motives and ambitions. I agree. There were still a few characters I did rather enjoy though. For me, they were Leo, Niles, and Saizo. What are your thoughts on this? And if any, who were the characters that you found interesting? I'm not really... See, the reason why I find this cast is really uninteresting is that I'm not down for like the whole like oh, that's a phone. Okay. Just gonna wait till someone answers that. There we go. Yeah. I just find that the whole I was a retainer thing just kind of boring. Like I'm not really super interested, and it doesn't really help that in my opinion, since they're like already sort of established as these retainers, and they already kind of just seem like tropes to me. Like when I think of Niles, I think of, oh, he's like the really like wild and like scandalous one, I guess. And then when I think of Odin, I'm like, oh well, Odin is like fucking he's like just this crazy over the top, literally a Wayne guy. So it's like these a lot of these characters kind of come off like they're sort of these exaggerated tropes rather than like grounded characters. And I agree, like Leo and like Saizo, they seem really grounded and they seem like actual characters. I don't know if like Saizo fits some sort of trope, but to me he comes off like he's this mysterious grounded guy with like, and I've read his supports because I find him actually interesting. I think the general consensus about Saizo is that he's pretty cool, and he just seems like this grounded guy who like, you know, he gets decent screen time on his own before you even get to play him if you play as Conquest. So he has this intrigue about him. He has a really cool design, and he has like, he's just like a cool guy. Like he's not over the top, and that's what I really don't like about some of these characters, that they're really over the top. And I think one of the reasons why I like FE, I always talk about FE8's cast because I love it. But something I was thinking about with FE8 is that it seems super grounded in medieval times. Like, if there's any game, then I guess FE4 and 5 would also fall into this. If there was any game that was super grounded in like its setting, I would say it's like FE4, 5, and 8. Because in FE8, it's like there's like these sexist themes. There's like these that would be like pretty much only be like found, for lack of a better term, in like medieval settings. Like women are looked down upon. Leon is embarrassed that Erica, you know, can beat him because she's a woman. There's these incestual themes that are very medieval. There's like, you know, these kind of dark, like rapey fantasies that are, I don't know if that's really medieval, but the way it's kind of described is like really fucked up, and, you know, it's against women and stuff. I'm not saying like I'm some misogynist psycho, but like it's just, to me, it seems like FE8 was just really grounded in the whole medieval theme. There was no character that was stupidly over the top. Everyone kind of seemed like a character. They might have fit a certain trope, but they always had like this really cool motivation that I could like see. How do I explain this? The characters just felt grounded, and that's what I really liked. Just characters that are grounded in the theme, that aren't over the top, and that's what I felt like some of the characters in Fates was. Like Charlotte, I understand that Charlotte, her character and her design is based around the fact that she's a gold digger and she wants to like get the attention of men. But like when I think of that, I'm like, well, Sonya did that. She seduced Brendan and she dressed super sexy, and she wasn't like this crazy lingerie wearing bow in her hair kind of thing. Like, to me, like Sonya would be a more grounded version of Charlotte in that way. And for me, it's like Conquest characters have crazy, some of the characters have crazy over the top designs that I just don't really like that much. It's just not, for me personally, I don't like it. For other people, they do like it. For other people, they do appreciate Charlotte's dress, and they're satisfied with the reasoning behind that dress. Me personally, I understand that reasoning, but I just don't like how over the top it is. That's just me. Who are the characters you found interesting? I found, and this is what I mentioned in my Revelations podcast for chapter 11 and 17, I think. Every character I like is shafted, which really makes me hate the cast that much more. I like Charlotte a lot. Sorry, I like Scarlet a lot. Reyna, Shura a lot. Saizo, he's not really shafted though. And Benny and Mozu. And like my three like characters that I'm super interested in, you know, Shura, who has probably one of the most interesting backstories and motivations in the game, and Reyna, who is, I want to say, yeah, like Makoto's old retainer, and she's like this old woman, and she might just have this like Jagan-esque sort of vibe to her, but she doesn't, because she's just shafted as a Corrin sexual. And Scarlet, who has a really cool, interesting relationship with Ryoma, but that's never explored, and she's completely shafted in Revelations. Like, she's completely, like, her character is just, she literally dies for no goddamn reason. It's just to set up this really stupid betrayal thing that's super predictable and makes absolutely no sense, because like Gunter's motivations are just so weird, and it's just like, it's just an excuse for Scarlet to die and to just press on this stupid fucking betrayal thing that was just so obvious. and I just didn't like it. So all my characters that I really was interested in, I'll get relegated to being locked to Corrin. Those are definitely my characters that I like. Just the ones that were shafted, and it just kind of sucks because I like to see what happens to them and what their characters actually are, but I'll never get the chance because Fire Emblem Fates is like, hey, guess what? We don't have time or the fucks to give to develop these characters that are just by default more interesting because they have their own story and motivations. We'll just throw them as, I mean, whatever. I mean, I liked Fuga too. Fuga was really cool because he's this old badass who has amazing bases, and at least he has a support with Hayato, which makes me question if he has a support with, like, if Fuga can afford to have a support with Hayato, then why can't Shura afford to have a support with, like, another member? Why can't Scarlet afford to have a support with Ryoma? If Fuga is a Corrin has a support pool of 2, then why does Scarlet have a support pool of 1? It makes no sense. It's just so stupid. I don't like it at all. God, it's dumb. And they'll bring up, well, Scarlet dies in the next chapter you recruit her from, and it's just like, she doesn't need to die, man. It's such a stupid thing. Like, oh god, it's so, like, I feel like if you cut out that betrayal thing, then you could just work around another thing, or the Scarlet dying thing. You can work out something else. I think you just could. I think it would make it, I don't know. I don't know how you would rewrite it. I don't really give a shit at this point, but I just don't want Scarlet to die for some stupid bullshit betrayal reason that is just really dumb. So those are the characters I found interesting. The ones who are locked to Corrin, unfortunately. Fire Leaf Ruby. Hey, Gast, I've been a fan since your This Is What Happens in Binding Blade, and I've really come to appreciate your style. Thank you. Sometimes some hard analysis is what the series needs. But on to the question. Do you want Fire Emblem to head in this new, modern, classic-ish direction, at least in terms of gameplay, or do a full 180 back to pre-FE13? Like have unbreakable weapons, less legendary weapons, pair up, or what we had with no pair-ups, breakable weapons, characters that don't join you automatically and need to be talked to. Just wondering now that you've got a perspective on what 3DS really plays like. I think gameplay-wise, it's a step up, honestly. See, Conquest felt like it was the true, like, embodiment of what Fates was trying to do with their, like, pair-ups and shit. I think at this point, I personally think pair-ups in Dual Guard is so useful, and they each have their own different play styles. Like, I play more with Dual Guard, because I feel like, I don't want to risk, getting screwed over and getting dual stricken, by enemies. Whereas Mangs likes to play more recklessly, and dual strike all the time. So, like, I feel like the dual guard and dual strike idea lets you open up into new play styles that, are unique to each player, which I think is really interesting. I don't think other games have really done that. Well, they have. Like, you can play, like, I usually play FE7 and FE8 pretty recklessly. I play Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn pretty recklessly. And I just, like, toss units out there because it's funner that way. But with Conquest, it was like, I'm going to be more reserved. And whereas Mangs just gave absolutely no fucks, and he just went dual striking all the time. Spoiler alert. We lost some units in Revelations, just saying. Yeah, so I feel like at this point, pair up and dual guard can only be improved on. And I'd be sad if they took it away. I don't think they will, because I think it's a really good mechanic. And at this point, it's like locked in as like the future sort of thing. And it's really good for me. I like it, and I'd like to see it come back. I don't know if it's broken or not. I've never really had instances where it was broken. I feel like it depends on people's playstyle, right? So yeah, let's see. I wouldn't want them to do a full 180. I think gameplay wise, like I said, it's moving up. And in terms of breakable weapons, it didn't really feel like unbreakable or breakable weapons really mattered. I'm gonna have to speak a little quieter because the baby's in the other room. So hopefully if I talk this quiet, then you can still hear me. So let's keep going. In terms of breakable weapons, I don't really know. I was thinking about this myself, and I like the idea of unbreakable weapons, but I also don't really mind if the breakable weapons came back. I don't think it left that much of an impact to the point where we need unbreakable weapons. I didn't really feel like I used a lot. I mean, I feel like maybe in the next iteration, like in FE15, a lunatic, setting can be like the weapons are breakable to add the extra pressure. But at this point, I don't really mind them being gone as long as they're balanced around it. Like, that's the thing. Like, as long as the game is balanced around a new mechanic in a good way, then it doesn't really matter because the game is still going to be fun. Like if you had this really overbroken weapon from the beginning of the game that just wouldn't break, then yeah, that'd be kind of fucked up. But since like Fates doesn't really do that for many of their weapons, then I mean maybe the Grey Club, but like other weapons, then yeah, I don't really think it's a big issue. What I want to see come back is definitely characters with their own story and that need to be talked to. Like enemy characters or characters that were like Shura or other characters like that who had their own story and who join with you and join for a similar cause or have the same interests like in mind. Like Shura joins you in Revelations because he wants to see Mokushu avenged, and then he realizes that you already kind of killed Kataro. That then he just decides to join you, for thanking him, but it kind of seems like he wants to just build Koga back, and he thinks that you're a legitimate means to get there. So it's things like that, that make characters interesting to have their own motivations, because it really kind of sets them and establishes them as actual characters. Okay, I'm actually just gonna do one more reply to me, because I'm really not a fan of speaking quietly. And this is what I mean by it's hard to find time, because I'm an uncle now and I don't want to wake up my niece who's sleeping in the other room. So this is going to be my last podcast, and I apologize. But I don't like speaking quietly. It's really hard to get my thoughts through without being very vocal about it. So I'm just going to answer this last one. Billy Rafflecopter asks, "Hey Gas, do you miss the warrior class? To me, classes are one of the most important parts of Fire Emblem. Warrior being missing in this game gave me the same feeling I had when I found out Thieves couldn't promote in FE6. I really hope no more classes go missing in the next game, and I want the warrior to come back, but maybe I'm the only person who cares." You know what? I don't really know why they left it out. I guess if I looked at the warrior, because the fighter can usually promote into a warrior, but the fighter in this game promotes to either a berserker or hero. So I guess I didn't really have a spot to fit the warrior in, but I did like the warrior class because it seemed like the strongest bow using class, because they had insane strength and the snipers were just never really that good, except for Shinon and stuff. Well, that's not really true, because I think Shinon, well, I don't know, I didn't really use Boyd or Nolan that much for bows in Atelius, so I'm not really sure. I think it would be cool to bring them back for sure. Yeah, I guess it's the only thing that's missing, isn't it? You have, what other hybrid classes? You have a sword and bow using class. Do you have a spear and bow using class? Because sword and bow is the bow knight. Bow and lance. I don't think there's a combination of bow and lance in the game. Yeah, I don't know. Bow and physical weapons don't really go as far as bow and swords, so I don't really know how that would fit. I guess maybe once they introduce new classes into the warrior. I didn't really feel like the warrior class was empty, because the sniper class was so good, and also the berserker class was so good. So I guess then the only thing with like the warrior class would just be like a worse combination of like the worst possible outcome between a berserker and a sniper. So I didn't really miss it that much, no. You might be the only person who cares, yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to end this reply to me here. I apologize for being very quiet, but I don't want to wake the kid up. I don't want that shit to follow me, so with that being said, I'm gassed. I will finish up this podcast, maybe when the baby is up. That might be a better idea. But that being said, I'm gassed. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening. Please leave a like and comment, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.